Israel didn't bomb a factory last night. It killed the people who know how to build the next one. 3 names, 24 hours, an electrical engineering professor, a senior missile researcher, a brigadier general who ran Iran's missile array, all eliminated, all gone. And the question nobody is asking out loud is the one that changes everything about how this war ends, or doesn't end. You can rebuild a factory. You cannot rebuild 20 years of institutional knowledge overnight. Hold 3 questions simultaneously. Question 1. If Israel has already destroyed an estimated 75% of Iran's missile launchers and struck over 8,000 military targets, if Iranian missile attacks have dropped by more than 90% since day one, why is it now shifting strategy to kill the scientists? What does that shift tell you about what Israel believes the factories and launchers alone cannot solve? Question 2. Iran's military doctrine was specifically redesigned after 2010 to survive exactly this kind of decapitation campaign. It is called the Mosaic Defense Doctrine. 31 separate commands, each able to operate independently, each with authority to launch without waiting for orders from above. If that doctrine works, and evidence suggests it has, then killing scientists and commanders may not stop the missiles. So why keep doing it? Question 3. The last time Israel assassinated a major adversary's leader to cripple an organization, the replacement turned out to be more dangerous than the original. That pattern has repeated itself at least 3 times in Israel's recent history. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is described by analysts as more hardline than his father. The pattern is visible. So why is Israel accelerating the very strategy that history says doesn't work? Don't look away. Because the answers to all 3 questions point to the same uncomfortable conclusion. To understand what happened in the last 24 hours, you need 1 number, 1 place, and 1 pattern from history. The number is 3. 3 senior figures eliminated on March 24th alone. Professor Saeed Shamgadari, a member of the Faculty of Electrical Engineering at Iran's University of Science and Technology, confirmed by open-source intelligence analysis as an expert in ballistic missile production. Mohammad Navid Qureshi, a senior researcher in Iran's missile and space programs. Brigadier General Hamid Mirzadeh, a senior engineer who ran Iran's missile array. The place is Tehran, the nerve center of whatever remains of Iran's military-industrial apparatus after 24 days of the most intensive bombing campaign against a nation-state since the Second World War. The pattern from history: 1992, Israel killed Hezbollah leader Abbas Musawi. His replacement, Hassan Nasrallah, turned Hezbollah into the most powerful non-state armed force in the Middle East. The assassination accelerated the organization, not weakened it. That is the context, and that is why what happened next changed everything. Because the scientists killed on March 24th are not leadership targets. They are knowledge targets. That is a different kind of war entirely. Start with the smallest thing. In 2010, a magnetic bomb attached to a car door near a Tehran intersection. 2 scientists dead, 2 more wounded. Operation Narnia, later documented by the Washington Post and PBS Frontline, killed 5 Iranian nuclear scientists between 2010 and 2020. Iran's nuclear program continued. The knowledge survived. In June 2025, Israeli strikes during the 12-day war killed over 30 security chiefs and 11 nuclear scientists. Fareydun Abbasi, Mohammad Mehdi Taranchi, Abdul Hamid Minucher, each one a node in the network of expertise that makes Iran's missile and nuclear programs function. Now, March 24th, 2026. The campaign has escalated from killing political and military leaders to killing the technical brain trust. Shamgadari was not a general. He was a professor. Qureshi was not a commander. He was a researcher. Mirzadeh was an engineer. These are not the people who give orders. They are the people who hold the formulas. This changed everything. Because it signals that Israel has concluded something it has not said publicly. Destroying the hardware alone is not enough. The software, the human knowledge, must be erased too. Here is what is confirmed as of today. Alma Research and Education Center, citing Iranian opposition sources, reported on March 24th that 3 senior figures were eliminated in strikes conducted the previous day. Professor Saeed Shamgadari, Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Iran University of Science and Technology, likely an expert in ballistic missile production. This is not a marginal figure. The Iran University of Science and Technology is one of the primary feeders for Iran's defense industrial complex. Electrical engineers with his specialization are directly involved in guidance systems, navigation units, and the electronic architecture that turns a ballistic missile from a dumb projectile into a precision weapon. Mohammad Navid Qureshi, senior researcher in Iran's missile and space project. His title indicates involvement not in current weapons production, but in the next generation, in the research that would allow Iran to rebuild, upgrade, and advance its arsenal after the current war ends. Brigadier General Hamid Mirzadeh, senior engineer, missile array. The word array is significant. This is not a launcher operator. This is someone who understands the systemic integration, how the entire missile force is organized, networked, and coordinated. But that wasn't the real issue. Because to understand why these three names matter more than the 8,000 targets Israel has already struck, you need to understand something called the mosaic defense doctrine. And to understand that, you need to know why Iran is still firing missiles on day 24 of a war in which the United States and Israel claim to have neutralized 75% of its launch capacity. The real shift was somewhere else entirely. U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard testified before the Senate on March 18th. Iran, she said, appears to be intact but largely degraded. Then, if a hostile regime survives, it will seek to begin a years-long effort to rebuild its missiles and UAV forces. She was not describing failure. She was describing the gap between winning a battle and winning a war. Iran's missile attacks on Israel dropped by more than 90% since day one. The Critical Threats Project at the American Enterprise Institute documents the sharp decline in salvo size as evidence of successful launcher suppression. On the surface, the coalition campaign is working, but missiles have not stopped. Iran struck a luxury residential building in Tel Aviv and damaged a train station in Holon on March 24th. 4,129 people have been wounded in Israel. Drone attacks on Gulf states continue. Saudi Arabia intercepted 24 Iranian UAVs in its eastern region, near strategic energy facilities, on the same day. That's when the balance shifted. There is a difference between degraded and destroyed. That difference is exactly what the scientists carry in their heads. Iran's military did not stumble into resilience. It was engineered. After Israel's campaigns against Hezbollah demonstrated that decapitation creates disruption but not collapse, Iran's IRGC restructured its command architecture around the mosaic defense doctrine. 31 separate commands, one for Tehran, one for each province. Each holds authority to launch independently. No central authorization required. If Tehran goes dark, Mashhad fires. CBC's military correspondent quoted analyst Michael Connell. My guess is they're probably delegating command and control to lower echelon commanders to conduct those strikes. They don't have to wait for directions. Translation: Israel has destroyed the top of the pyramid. Iran is firing from the base. This is why killing scientists represents a doctrinal escalation beyond killing commanders. A provincial colonel can launch a missile without authorization. He cannot design a new guidance system without Shamgadari. He cannot advance the next Fata generation without Quraishi. He cannot coordinate a reconstituted missile array without Mirzadeh. The target has shifted from command to capability, from the authority to fire to the knowledge to rebuild. But before we get to whether this strategy can actually work, and why the most authoritative voice on this question said something last week that every government in this coalition appears to be ignoring, we need to understand what Israel is gambling against. Because there is a historical precedent that Israel's own intelligence services know better than anyone, and it doesn't favor the strategy they are executing. Stay with this. In February 1992, Israel killed Hezbollah's Secretary General Abbas Musawi. His replacement was Hassan Nasrallah. Under him, Hezbollah became the most powerful non-state armed force in the Middle East. 150,000 missiles, a stalemate against Israel in 2 out of 6. The assassination accelerated the organization. The same pattern repeated with Hamas, with Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, killed on February 28th, replaced by the more hardline Mojtaba. No uprising. Iran still fires. John Alterman at CSIS. This will give him the option of stopping whenever he wants, but what he won't be able to do is control what the Iranians do in response. A halt in American bombing alone will neither stop the war nor necessarily open the Strait of Hormuz. PBS's analysis stated it plainly. Israel is rapidly killing Iran's top leaders. Experts warn the strategy could backfire. That headline is not alarmist framing. It is the documented historical pattern applied to the current campaign. Hegseth said Iran's ballistic missile production has been functionally defeated. IDF claims 75% of launchers neutralized. Campaign is on schedule. And yet 3 missile scientists were eliminated on day 24. Not because the hardware campaign has succeeded, but because Israel has concluded the hardware can be rebuilt. The IAEA's Grossi said it plainly. War cannot entirely eliminate the nuclear program, even if the main facilities are heavily damaged. Not because buildings cannot be destroyed, because the knowledge does not live in the buildings. That is the real reason Shamgadari, Quraishi, and Mirzadeh were targeted on March 24th. But here is the part that neither Washington nor Tel Aviv has answered publicly. And the answer, when you see it, makes the entire strategy look different. The real shift was not in what Israel is destroying. It is in what Iran is already preparing to replace it with. Iran's knowledge infrastructure does not exist only inside Iran. Operation Narnia's precision depended on extensive ground intelligence. Agents inside Iran, surveillance networks, targeting data that satellites alone cannot provide. On March 24th, Iran's national police announced the arrests of 68 alleged Israeli intelligence assets, caught monitoring strike sites and transmitting footage to hostile media outlets. 68 in a single announcement. That is evidence of a counterintelligence operation dismantling the human network that makes precision targeting possible. If that network degrades, if the agents stop transmitting, if the safe houses go dark, the precision that eliminated 3 scientists this week becomes exponentially harder to repeat next month. Without warning, the campaign that took years to build could be blinded in weeks. For Israel, the scientists are irreplaceable nodes. Kill the knowledge and rebuilding takes a generation. For Iran, the arrests are a firewall. Identify the network, close it down, and the precision stops. For the United States, the timeline is everything. DNI Gabbard said plainly, if the regime survives, it rebuilds. The 5-day diplomatic window expires Saturday. For history, the precedent is unambiguous. No state has ever succeeded in permanently eliminating another state's technical weapons program through assassination alone. This wasn't just a military operation. Every layer of this war shifted on March 24th. Militarily, 3 technical experts eliminated. Iran's mosaic doctrine means launches continue regardless. But the intellectual infrastructure for the next missile generation, the Fatah 3, the upgraded Sejil, lost 3 of the people who carried it forward. Economically, Iran still fires. Saudi Arabia intercepted 24 drones near its eastern energy facilities on March 24th alone. Brent crude remains above $100. The assassination campaign changes the long-term calculus. It does not change the price at the pump today. Politically, Jason Campbell, senior fellow at the Middle East Institute and former Pentagon policy staffer, described the war as entering a phase of incrementalism, each side escalating just enough to one-up the other without triggering an endpoint. The scientist killings fit that pattern perfectly. Strategically, the IAEA's position has not changed. Grossi said the war cannot entirely eliminate Iran's nuclear program, even if facilities are heavily damaged. The knowledge exists in documents, formulas, and the memories of scientists who are not yet dead. And then came the response. Iran confirmed on the night of March 24th that it had retaliated to recent assassinations with fresh missile strikes on Israel. 2 people were killed near Tel Aviv. The IRGC statement claimed the strikes were specifically revenge for the blood of those recently eliminated. That statement is more than retaliation rhetoric. It is operational evidence. Iran's command structure, despite losing its supreme leader, its intelligence minister, its armed forces chief, its security council secretary, and now 3 technical specialists, coordinated a retaliatory strike with enough precision to include a named justification within hours. The mosaic doctrine is not a theoretical framework. It is working on the battlefield today. Michael Connell's assessment from CBC bears repeating that the Iranian missile forces have sustained their strikes every day since the war began, may be itself a testament to the effectiveness of the mosaic defense. Here is where the scientist assassination campaign actually leads. If it works, if the 3 killed on March 24th, combined with 11 nuclear scientists and 30-plus security chiefs eliminated since February 28th, represent enough of the intellectual network to prevent reconstitution, then Israel will have accomplished something no nation has ever done before, permanently crippled a state weapons program through targeted killing alone. If it doesn't work, if Iran's knowledge has been distributed, duplicated, and partially offshored in ways the targeting data cannot reach, then on some morning, 5 years from now, a missile will fly from Iran that no one was supposed to be able to build anymore, carrying the institutional memory of every scientist eliminated in the war of 2026. Unexpectedly, the most honest assessment came from outside any government. The IAEA's Grossi. War cannot entirely eliminate the nuclear program, even if the main facilities are heavily damaged. Israel's doctrine disagrees. It is betting, with 3 more lives on March 24th, that knowledge can be bombed out of existence. History says it cannot. Israel is trying anyway. 3 scientists, 24 hours, no answer.